It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So here's the question, folks. Do we need more policemen in the city of Hazleton? There's no question about it, we do. But what do we do in the meanwhile? What are we doing to help prevent crime? All right, this is going to be an interesting show, folks, because you're going to learn a lot about the Crime Watch. Today I have Sylvia Thomas, who is the head of the Crime Watch on the Altet Street area. We have Judy Yurcho, okay, I'm sorry, who is the coordinator for the Northwest area, which is Church Street, the Boundary Street, 15th Street to Hazel Township. And we're going to talk about the need for your involvement in the Crime Watch and what is Crime Watch all about. So, Judy, let me start with you, okay? Tell me about Crime Watch, what it is.
It's basically looking out for your neighbor, which is something way back when, that's what we did. We knew who our neighbors were. We used to go out and hang clothes on the line. We would talk over the fence. If the neighbor was going away, they would say, could you watch my house? Can you watch my dog? A lot of the neighbors had keys for each other's houses. I remember growing up as a kid, we knew everyone on the block for a 2-block radius both ways and up and down. And now anymore, it seems that there are people that don't even know who they're living next to. They won't even say hi to the person. It's more or less you're walking around with blinders on. And that's what we need to go back to. We need to know who our neighbors are. We need to talk to our neighbors. And even if you don't like your neighbor, at least you can watch their house for them if they are going somewhere. I think the misconception is that, you know, Crime Watch, we go around with guns and walk the streets at night. That's not what it is. It's keeping an eye on the neighborhood. If there's a car there that's not familiar, or if there's a person in the neighborhood that's not familiar, if there's a person going around soliciting that shouldn't be. These are things that we have stopped in our neighborhood. These are things that we have deterred crime in. So it's just keeping an eye on everybody that's around.
Boy, I remember the good old days, as they say in Partysville, and you're so right. We never even locked our doors,
no.
Judy. Remember, Sylvia?
Yeah,
we never,
little screen door.
Yeah, screen door. I mean, and you knew the neighbors. You know, you shared whatever, sugar, flour, bread, whatever. You knew if a strange car was in the area.
Absolutely.
And now people are, they tell you, you know, mind your own business, okay?
Yeah.
Well, those days are, I don't think, they're gone. You have to mind
Absolutely.
other people's businesses.
Right.
And not that you want to know about their finances, etc., but you need to know who's across the street, who lives, if there's any activity going on. Tell me how your Crime Watch then works. Like, what have you done that you've been able to prevent some crimes?
Well, we have, just on my block, and I know like 90% of the people that are living on my block, there was a house that went up for like a sheriff's sale. And it was a good house. I mean, it's not, you know, it just got sold, which we're happy that now someone's in there. But my neighbor across the street, which her husband and her, she's our treasurer for the Crime Watch. And he was keeping an eye on the house. And he found the one day he went down and the back door was busted open. So he went into the basement and they had cut the pipes there. So he called the cops. They came in. They got in touch with somebody to bolt the door, and then we kept an eye on the house. And I was coming home I was watching one of my friends, I was babysitting one of their kids, and I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning instead of normally 7. And when I was going through the alley, because I kind of do a perimeter check around the neighborhood that early in the morning, and I saw flashlights in the house. So I called the police, and 3 cop cars came, and they went from top to bottom in the house. I watched from my porch because it was just up the street, and they went from top to bottom, and when they came out, I went over and talked to them. I said, I'm the one that called, and they said the back door was open. They were probably coming back to try to get the pipes, but you know, something like that deterred it because we were just keeping an eye on it. Yeah. There's also been drug dealers that we've gone out and we've made sure that they've known that we are watching them. You know?
Sylvia, you called me a couple weeks ago and you said, Sam, you know, I'd like to get exposure for the Crime Watch, and there's no question about it. This is what I like to do is bring information out there. You're 79 years old. Mm-hmm. God bless you. Okay, I hope I hit 79. Right, Judy? I hope I can hit it.
Absolutely. You got a long way off there.
Thanks a lot.
No, but here's the thing. You like, you know, my mother lived to be 90. God bless her. you've seen changes, okay, in the town, and that's what you hear all the time. Hazelton is not like it used to be. It's never going to be there, et cetera, et cetera. But you have, tell me why you are so involved.
Well, you have to be. You love your neighbor, and especially children. One of my biggest fears is that a child is going to get hurt or even killed with this firing wild bullets around, and it's in your heart. I was born in Hazelton. I was born on Alder Street, and I just love my city and my neighbors, and I don't want it to just fade away and give it to criminals and whoever wants it for crime.
You're looking at, when you say most of the shootings, correct me if I'm wrong, are either drug-related and they're specific. In other words, they're not just...
Yeah, but those bullets are flying all over the place.
There's no question about that, and that's the thing. So getting to the point that if you are able to, if you're suspicious, and that's what Chief DeAndre keeps saying, we're our own policemen. We don't have cops on every corner like we wish we did, okay? And hopefully within the next few years we'll have more cops around. But if you're suspicious and you make a call, okay, if you feel there's drug activity, that's where the Crime Watch really pays, because that could,
absolutely.
You don't have to patrol the sidewalks like they did years ago with the vest on, and I wouldn't recommend it, because especially places like Alder Street. But you couldn't patrol it during the day when you're coming home from grocery shopping, and even if you don't have to go down Alder Street, go down and keep an eye on what's going on, and things like that.
I go to Angel's restaurant,
Oh, I know where you're at.
Yeah, and I've never had a problem at all, okay, going into his restaurant. I go to Bobby D's, I've never had a problem at all, okay. So, I mean, for people say, I'm not going on Alder Street because they're worried about getting shot, I mean, I think it's foolish. I mean, you live there, don't you?
I did. I moved not because of the crime. I just had to sell my house, and I got maybe half of what it was worth, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But it's just to say, could I read this,
Go
or
right
do you want me
ahead.
to wait?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm not much of a speaker, but so
Listen,
I wrote down.
you can do whatever you want.
Don't say that.
I think it's well written, and I think it's well, and you cover a lot of points here. Go right ahead.
Okay. Judy and I are here to encourage the people of the Hazelton area to get more involved with what's happening in our hometown. We can no longer feel safe even in our own homes. On October 19th, shots were fired into a home on James Street. On October 22nd, shots were fired into a home on 3rd Street. And on October 29th, shots were fired into homes on Alder Street. Our security systems can't stop bullets. Cameras can't take vivid pictures of people firing guns from inside a car. We can't afford to have a policeman or woman on every corner. We should not wait until that wild shooting kills an innocent person, or especially an innocent child who hasn't had time in life to take dope and hurt anybody. And it's not just crime. Our hometown looks like a dump in some areas. Garbage and trash on sidewalks and gutters that looks like it's been there for months. Abandoned buildings that attract criminals and the homeless. The homeless people who live in these buildings are living in danger of fire and disease. Hiding in our homes is only encouraging criminals to take over our city. And as far as moving, they'll just follow us anywhere, sooner or later. And depending on our elected politicians is one big joke. All they care about is being reelected. All they do at City Hall is fight, fight, fight. I hope that will change. What we the people have to do is to get involved and get more demanding. Phone or email your mayor and council, your representatives and senators, and your district attorney and your attorney general, and demand help from them. Also attend Crime Watch meetings. You'll find out what's going on in your neighborhood and other neighborhoods. You may come up with an idea of what to do to get your city back. But crime watches won't be of any help to the city without the cooperation of the mayor, council, police, and City Hall. We have to work together. You know, Sam and the people of the Hazleton area, Judy and I went to the mayor's debate at the community center. I counted 28 people there. The paper said 30 people were there. 30 people out of 33,000. That is why crime and dope is flourishing in our town, not because of Interstate 80 and 81 intersecting in our area. That is why our local politicians fight instead of cooperating with each other. That is why our taxes keep going up and up, and we the people get less and less. We the people have to get involved. Sam, I had trouble finding the address and email for Attorney General Kane, but I did find District Attorney Salavantis. Would you find Kane's and post both of them on TV and encourage the people to get in touch with both of them? We need help from people like you. Please help us save our hometown. Thank you.
Well, Sylvia, I'm going to tell you, you know, I couldn't have done this better myself. It's fabulous. You're saying it. If I would say this, then I'm being labeled as, oh, he's a politician or he's siding with people.
Yeah, but we need help from people
well,
like you.
And that's what I try to do, okay?
Yes.
And when you take a side, it's not that you take a side for a specific Democrat or Republican, okay? You take a side for the betterment of our community. Yes, the council sometimes turns into a zoo, okay? It's unfortunate. Why it does, I don't know. I'm not criticizing them. It shouldn't be that. They should have respect for each other and try to say, what can we do to help the city and work together? I'm hoping in the next couple of years we're going to have that, okay? I'll be on top of them as much as I can and let the people know that. But you could certainly host my next show, no problem, okay? Folks, I'm talking Sylvia, Thomas, and Judy Yurcho. Okay, we'll be back with more information about the Crime Watch. And as you can see, folks, it's not walking around with guns. It's just paying attention and getting involved. And boy, the more people get involved, we're going to eliminate crime? No, but we can certainly deter it, as Judy said. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, you can watch all of our shows 24/7 on ssptv.com. Every one we produce, all in HD. My email is sam@ssptv.com. I love this show, folks, because we're talking to two people that are involved with the Crime Watch. And if you're just tuning in and you didn't hear what Sylvia Thomas had to say, you know, we repeat the show many times, and it's also on our website. I highly recommend that you listen to the first part of the show because she so eloquently explained what's happening in the town and how we need to work together. Judy's also here, who was the coordinator for the Alter Street area. Let's talk about Alter Street, Judy.
Well, it was funny because, like Sylvia had mentioned, because she's coordinator for that area, about people not wanting to go down Alter Street. And I always take Alter Street home. I pick my sister up. She works at Avenues, and I take Alter Street going down. And when I'm up in Giant or whatever, that's the street I take. It doesn't matter what time of night it is. And I have people say to me, "Are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Are you nuts? Why don't you take a different route home?" And I said, "I've been doing that since I learned how to drive, going down that street. And I'm not letting anyone force me out of that. Yeah. I'm not going to change my routine because we have a criminal element."
Have you experienced anything from going to Alter Street?
I saw a drug deal go down right in front of me. The gentleman actually parked right in front, and I'm sitting there with my mom, who's 80 years old, and I'm waiting because he's blocking the street, and you see one guy come up, and they exchange the money, and you see this little packet go out, and I said to Mom, "You just witnessed a drug deal," and she's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "That's the sad part." I said, "This is what's happening." Now, I took the license plate on the car, and I did call 911. I said, you know, but it's hard
that's
for
good.
It is, and that's what you're supposed to be doing.
And let me tell you, if more people, and as Chief DeAndrea said, you know, sometimes people will see drug deals going down, and they feel, I'm not going to call the cops. They're not going to do anything. They do, and everything is confidential. But then they'll begin to investigate, and that could lead to them finding out who the car is, finding where the person lives, watching their home, and then you nab the dealers. It's so sad today, and I'm sure, Sylvia, you shake your head. I'm sure my mother did when she was alive. When you see these young people doing drugs, killing themselves. You know, it's just a disease. It's such, and you know, we had the district attorney here, Christine Holman from Schuylkill County. We had the coroner, Dr. Moylan here. We talked to District Attorney Sylvanis. And this marijuana nonsense, okay, that all these politicians want to legalize marijuana.
Because it's a money making.
And so it's a to me, it's a gateway drug, okay?
Yeah, it starts
you know, it's like a person drinking beer, and you're having a couple beers, and then you're getting a little happy. Let's do shots. Now the shots come, okay? I say every politician who's for legalizing marijuana should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah. Now, medical is a whole different, that Ed Payne mentioned about that, mentioned that that's a whole different ball game, okay? But to legalize it, okay, God knows what's happening in Colorado with these people who started on marijuana, what they're using, and they're just, I mean, you must shake your head.
Excuse me, Sam, but a couple of weeks ago I was going down Alder Street, and there was a business with some steps in front of it. And I see this young man sitting there, and he has a hood, and he's sitting like this, and you could tell he was high on something. And I thought to myself, that young man is going to live like that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and
if he's lucky to live long.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If he's lucky to live long. Okay, Crime Watch, Judy, to get involved. Okay, you have a card here. Can I mention a number?
Oh,
here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would highly suggest, folks. It's just paying attention. Just paying attention, and when they have their meetings, they discuss different things. Sometimes they'll have Chief DeAndrea,
We have different speakers. We've had Jamie Dixon in there. We've had people from the drug. I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be the
task force.
Yeah, the one that's on Broad Street, they deal with addicts and that.
Yeah. Oh yes.
We've had
Waves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Waves.
Yeah.
I know that they were Sorrento Gardens at one time.
Right.
I didn't want, and we've had different speakers in that came in and talked about. We've had someone from the schools talk about bullying. So it's a variety of things. I mean, it's not just drugs. It's bullying. It's home invasions. It's everything.
It's everything. Here's the number, folks: 570-401. 6673. That's 501-401-6673. If anything, just give her a call, and she can maybe give you some information. Even if you can't attend the meetings, maybe she'll give you helpful hints as to what you could do in your neighborhood. But getting to.
Excuse me, Can I give my number
You
too?
go right ahead. You sure? Now all these guys will be calling you now. You sure? What's your number?
Well, they're too late.
What's your number?
454-0265.
0265. Now, Sylvia, you got to call Sylvia up, okay? 570-454-0265, just to get information, folks. That's all we're doing, okay? Now, there are crime watches in many other areas. I mean, I know you're covering the Hazelton. Your area, as I said, was from, what areas you cover?
It's from Church Street over to basically Boundary. And then we go from 15th Street all the way back. Now, we do have Township in ours, too. So we're kind of unique. We have Hazelton and Township. So we try to help both. The only problem with Township is they don't have a police force. They have the state police. So a lot of times, if they call on a certain thing, there's a longer wait time. I'd like to see that change in Township. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them have actually somebody there.
I don't think the supervisor's going to go for that.
Well, they could afford to do what that is. I've had people come up to me from Township and say that they have waited a long period of time. I've called, they said we're too busy. They're having problems with a neighbor. They call about a drug deal or something like that. Where I live, I'm a block away from Township. And the funny part of it is when people come and score their drugs, they think if they go down into Township that they're fine because it's going to take a longer wait time. They can shoot up, they can get high, and they can leave before anybody comes around. And the only problem is where I live, like I said, I'm a block up. They end up on my block. And this past summer, I ended up witnessing someone actually shooting up his girlfriend in this van, and I just went nuts. And people were like, I can't believe you approached the car. And, I was weed whacking my yard. And that's the sad part, and to yell at them. I mean, I startled the guy. He was higher than a kite, and and I'm like, you're lucky I didn't call the cops ahead of time. Meanwhile, I'm like, I have my phone on me, and I'm taking down the license plate number and description of the car and everything else. And I called as soon as they pulled out.
Boy, you know, when you talk to the district attorneys or anyone in law enforcement, they'll tell you about education, education. You got to educate these young kids, you know, in even 4th and 5th grade, which is so sad. And my granddaughters, 5th and 6th grade and 4th, I mean, and my grandson. And it's like, you know, you just worry. My wife was telling my granddaughter, look, if anything you do, anyone's talks to you, you just turn around and don't even get lost, because they try to hook you, okay, and once you get hooked, boy, how many families and young people have died, commit suicide, you know, and we're trying to help them. I mean, if you're on drugs, let's try to get you.
In 2012, Ed Payne said in the paper, I even said this in front of the council, that in all the years he was a counselor, I think he said 20 or 30 years, he never saw young people getting addicted to heroin so fast.
Yes.
He said they're living a nightmare.
Folks.
And you know, one more thing, when I hear people criticize the young people of today, like the teenagers and I get angry, because I say to them, I'm surprised they're not far worse than they are. They're surrounded by drugs, crime, sex, and I think they're a lot better than they're given credit for.
Are you sure you're 79 and you're not like 50 years old? It's absolutely right. I mean, you know what, Sylvia, you heard me say this before. I said, if you want to solve the problems in this world today, or in the United States, get senior citizens together, and you talk to them, because the knowledge that you have at 79 years old,
you have to learn something after all of those years.
Yeah, and you have solutions, but yet these whippersnapper young politicians who think they know it all, that especially in Washington today, that's screwing up this country so much, and they're worried about greed and they're worried about money. They would go to seniors and say, here we're facing a problem.
They won't listen.
Well, that's the sad part. I'll be back right after this, folks. Thanks for staying with us, folks. Remember, get involved with Crime Watch. It's, you know, if you can't make the meetings, at least I have Judy here and Sylvia, okay? Judy's the coordinator of the Northwest Neighborhood Crime Watch, and I have Sylvia Thomas, her area is Alder Street. Now, here's the phone number. I'm giving you a couple numbers just to call, get information. It's for your own good, folks. We don't have the cops, as many cops on every corner, as Sylvia so eloquently said in the first part of our show. It's 570-454-0265, and Judy's number is 401-6673, of course, 570. And they'll be more than happy to tell you how you can get involved, what you do. It's just a matter of watching, right? It's just a matter of paying attention to your neighbor, get to know what's happening in your community. And once you do, you can certainly be of help to the policeman. You've found that, I mean, you're very active with this, aren't you, Judy?
I am. There's a lot of friends of mine, and I don't have any children, but there's, as Sylvia said, the kids in the neighborhood. That's what you look out for, and the older people. Okay. It seems that they're targets.
Is there any danger in becoming a member of Crime Watch?
No.
Okay,
No.
so
No.
what we talked about, you're not walking around with guns, you're not walking around and looking for trouble. You're just being observant. Is that?
Absolutely.
Well, you know, if anybody's afraid to call 911, they could call one of those two numbers, and we'll call 911.
And I've done that also.
Yeah.
I've done that also. There was a woman that had called me the one time, and I ended up calling the police about it. She was worried about her son, who got into a car that they were heading out towards Shenandoah, and she said, I know they just robbed, you know, this one person, and she said, I don't want my son involved in this. And I said, well, just give me, you know, the names. She didn't want to give me her son's name. I said, well, if they catch the car, they're probably going to find him. But, I mean, it was just something like that, and I had called and talked to the police about that. It's, like I said, if you're afraid to call, then everything's confidential. I have called many times on different things, and my name never goes out over the scanner or anything like that. And to be honest with you, I think you were saying about the senior citizens, they're our biggest allies in the Crime Watch. They know everything that's going on in the neighborhood. When I was a kid and I used to come home at 2 o'clock, I was DJing and I would come home after 2 o'clock in the morning. They made sure to tell my mom, do you know your daughter came? And she's like, yeah, she was working last night, you know.
You know, it's funny. I say to, when I'm talking to my friends, the senior citizens, I say, look, don't let them fool you. Don't let them, you know, tell you how to vote, etc. We don't have to worry about Sylvia. She knows exactly what she's doing, and I would only hope that more senior citizens, you know, would feel that way. But listen, you're tired, you worked hard, you try and enjoy your last years in life, and then what happens? The government and everybody else makes it difficult for you. It's just so sad, and I'm hoping
you can't give up.
Yeah. No, you know what? That was my mother. When my mother turned 90, and God rest her soul, she says, you know, Butchie, 10 years, I'm going to be 100. You know, unfortunately, she didn't make it. But the point is, you know, it was.
And looking forward to it.
Yeah, Sylvia. And here's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with Crime Watch. But if my mother didn't have me or my sister Rose Lee, I don't know how she would have survived. Because on Social Security wasn't there, etc. And boy, don't they really help you with Social Security? They give you $2-3.
Yeah.
We didn't even get that.
It's sad. Listen, I applaud the both of you, Judy and Sylvia, and thanks for calling me. Okay. And anytime you need anything, you just give me a call right to my office, and I'll respond
But
as
don't
I.
forget to put the address and email with Kane.
Well, we're gonna do
Saladin.
this. We're gonna try to get the Attorney General's address and phone number, but it should be in a book. If you Google it.
I moved. I can't find my book.
If someone if someone just goes and says, you know, Attorney General Kane's phone number, it'll come up, okay? Thanks again. Keep up the good work, Sylvia. Yeah. I'll see you in 10 years.
Judy does.
I'll see you in 10 years when you're 89, okay? And Judy, keep the same.
Thank you very much for having us.
It's the Crime Watch, folks. Give you the numbers again. Please mark them down. If you forget them, give us a call here at the station, 401-6673. It's 570 or 570-454-0265. Now, remember, for those of you who should be on cable, but if you know people, they could go to our website, ssptv.com. We run this show. It'll be up there 24/7. Anyone can watch the show and get these phone numbers, but it's an education. It's just a matter of paying attention in your neighborhood. We'll see you next time.